Hello and welcome. I'm Liz Booker. I'm a retired Coast Guard helicopter pilot and writer. I host the Aviatrix Book Club and promote books that feature women in aviation as literary aviatrix, with a beautiful website that I updated and launched earlier this year with an author interview series, which you can find on the website, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts, and across social media at Literary Aviatrix. I can't believe we are going into our fourth year, and I'm so excited to announce the reading list for 2024. The Aviatrix Book Club is a Facebook group, which is the primary forum for all of us to communicate and share books that feature women in aviation, and it's where you'll find virtual discussion dates and times each month. Anyone who is interested in discussing our books is welcome. You can pop in just for the books you want to discuss during the year. You can join us every month at whichever discussion time works for you. Or if you or your local aviation chapter would like to host, reach out to me and we'll schedule a time that works for you. We have a core group of dedicated participants who have consistently participated from the beginning. They have diverse backgrounds and involvement in aviation, and we often find the books serve as an icebreaker or reference point to share stories about our own experiences. It's a wonderful community, and we love when new and different voices join in. Okay, on to the books. I'll run through the title and authors first, and then I'll give you a synopsis of each book. So, in January, we'll read From Plane to Plane, My Mennonite Childhood, A National Scandal, and an Unconventional Sort of Freedom by Patty Bear. February, Stateless by Elizabeth Wein. March, The Six, The Untold Story of America's First Women Astronauts by Lauren Grush. April, Wings Around the World, The Exhilarating Story of One Woman's Epic Flight from the North Pole to Antarctica. May, Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. June, Aviatrix, First Woman Pilot for Hughes Air West by Mary Bush Shipko. July, The Fabulous Flying Mrs. Miller, a true story of murder, adventure, danger, romance, and daring do by Carol Baxter. August, A Woman's Guide to Search and Rescue by Mary Carroll Moore. September, Wings of Her Dreams, Alaska Bush and Glacier Pilot Kitty Banner by Anne Lewis Cooper. October, Taking Flight, The Nadine Ramsey Story by Raquel Ramsey and Trisha Arand. November, Shoot Like a Girl, One Woman's Dramatic Fight in Afghanistan and on the Home Front by Mary Jennings Hagar. And December, The Girls of Flight City, inspired by true events, a novel of World War II, the Royal Air Force, and Texas by Lorraine Heath. So those are the titles, and here is a synopsis of each one. From Plane to Plane is Patty Bear's memoir of growing up in a Mennonite community in which no one, and especially no woman, would ever dream of becoming a pilot. When she was 8 years old, her father was excommunicated and shunned from the church, which turned into a national scandal and launched Patty out of a culture of gender oppression and into the air, first to the Air Force and then to the airlines. This book is Patty's accountability project. After living in a world where you were expected to turn the other cheek and never voice your opinions, Patty found her voice. I interviewed Patty back in February 2021 for the launch of this book, which you can find if you scroll through my website or YouTube channel or find Season 1, Episode 6 of my podcast. Stateless is prolific New York Times best-selling author and general aviation pilot Elizabeth Wein's latest historical fiction, this one a thriller novel set in 1930s Europe. As international tensions build toward World War II, main character Stella North is chosen to represent Britain in an international air race for young people to promote peace. But she soon finds that each of the racers is hiding a turbulent and violent past, and any one of them might be capable of murder. Elizabeth has featured women pilots in 8 historical fiction novels, including the best-selling Codename Verity and 2 nonfiction histories, the most recent of which is American Wings, Chicago's pioneering Black aviators and the race for equality in the sky, co-authored by Cherie L. Smith and set to launch on January 16th, 2024. While we didn't talk about these books, you can check out my interviews with both Elizabeth and Cherie about their other works in Season 1, Episodes 12 and 33 of the podcast. The 6 beautifully fills a previous void in our canon, offering us the story of the first 6 women chosen from a pool of 8,000 applicants in 1978 for NASA's astronaut program. This biography by journalist and Bloomberg space expert Lauren Grush shows these brilliant and courageous women enduring claustrophobic and sometimes deeply sexist media attention, undergoing rigorous survival training, and preparing for years to take multi-million-dollar payloads into orbit. Polly Vasher took up flying at age 50, and in the following decade flew multiple long-distance challenges to raise money for the charity Flying Scholarships for the Disabled. On 6 May 2003, she set out from Birmingham Airport on a voyage to the ice, flying over the North Pole, Antarctica, in all 7 continents, returning on 27 April 2004, and becoming the first solo woman flyer over the polar regions. Her story is accompanied by color photos from her travels throughout her memoir, Wings Around the World. Award-winning novelist Maggie Shipstead gives us a sweeping dual-perspective novel featuring, on the one hand, a fictional historical character, Marion Graves, who takes her first flight as an adolescent in the 1920s, goes on to fly for the Air Transport Auxiliary in the UK in World War II, and ultimately attempts a Great Circle circumnavigation of the world via the North and South Poles. The other character, Hadley Baxter, is a famous modern-day Hollywood actress who is tapped to portray Marion. This book is a beautifully drawn saga reminiscent of Steinbeck or Michener, with rich detail and accuracy about flying and women in aviation history, and both Great Circle and Stateless are also excellent audiobooks. Being a pioneer female pilot in the airlines was not for the faint of heart. As we read in the Great Stewardess Rebellion this year, the industry was not interested in advancing women as smart, independent, capable employees. The unsuspecting Mary Bush Shipko, who just wanted to fly, entered the fray, first as a freight dog flying from Miami to the Caribbean, then as the first woman to fly for the airline Hughes Air West in 1976. Mary's memoir, Aviatrix, will astound, appall, and inspire you. You can find my interview with Mary about her young reader's history, The Firsts, Women Pilots and How They Changed the Airlines, in Season 3, Episode 54 of the podcast. The Fabulous Flying Mrs. Miller is the spellbinding story of an international celebrity in the golden age of aviation. The glamorous Jessie Chubby Miller left Australia and her husband in 1927, became the first woman to fly from London to Australia, flew in the 1929 Women's Transcontinental Air Race, and at one point was feared lost in the Bermuda Triangle. And she entangled herself in a love triangle that ended in murder and became one of the most notorious and controversial trials in U.S. history. Author Mary Carroll Moore was inspired by her mother, a woman Air Force service pilot in World War II, to incorporate 2 women pilots in her novel, A Woman's Guide to Search and Rescue. Estranged sisters Kate Fisher and Red Nelson come together in the Adirondack Mountains after Red is framed for murder and flees by plane looking for sanctuary. When she's forced into an emergency landing, Kate is launched to find her. The reviews say this is an exciting work of survival fiction with strong female characters that deftly balances the tensions and danger of a crime thriller with the emotion and compassion of a family saga. You can find my book launch interview with Mary on the Literary Aviatrix website or podcast Season 3, Episode 80. In September, we head to Alaska for heavy load transports with tundra tires to remote sites, seaplane and float operations, landings and takeoffs in the ice and snow of high-altitude glaciers, and aerial film and photography with pilot Kitty Banner. One of the first women to become an accomplished glacier pilot, Kitty is often named as the inspiration for the character Maggie O'Connell in the television series Northern Exposure. This is another beautiful book complemented by color photos of her adventures throughout. In October, we're taking flight with Women Air Force service pilot Nadine Ramsey. Nadine was the first Kansas woman to earn a commercial pilot license. She was among the earliest women to fly the U.S. Airmail, one of only 26 WASP who flew the fighter aircraft Lockheed P-38 Lightning and the first woman to own one, and the only woman in the country to instruct male pilots to fly fighter planes after the war. A documentary about Nadine by Vanilla Fire Productions is set to premiere on November 10th, 2024. You can find my interview with Nadine's sister-in-law, Raquel Ramsey, who co-authored the book with Trisha Arand in Season 1, Episode 17. On July 29th, 2009, Air National Guard Major Mary Jennings Hagar's helicopter was shot down on a medevac mission in Afghanistan. Despite being wounded, she fought the enemy and saved the lives of her crew and their patients, earning her the Purple Heart and the Distinguished Flying Cross with Valor. In Shoot Like a Girl, we follow her through battle both in Afghanistan and back at home, when she fought to open all combat positions to women in the military. There is also a young adult version of Mary's inspiring story entitled Fly Like a Girl for ages 12 to 16. And finally, in December, we visit a unique corner of history in a 20th century romance novel inspired by true events, in which main character Jessie Lovelace fights to become an instructor pilot when the civilian flight school in her small Texas town begins to clandestinely train British pilots for the RAF in 1941. As the war intensifies and America becomes involved, the girls of Flight City do their part to bring a victorious end to the conflict, preparing young cadets to take to the skies. And there you have it. Another 12 months of exploring our stories. And what I hope you appreciate as much as I do is the tremendous diversity of genre, types of flying, cultural and historical perspectives represented in the over 600 books on the market that feature women in aviation. You can find my affiliate links for all of them on the Literary Aviatrix website, which will either direct you to purchase from Amazon or from your favorite independent bookseller through bookshop.org. Since not all of the books on this year's reading list are available in audio or ebook, for our book club friends outside the US, if the titles I shared today interest you, I encourage you to check early to see if they're available for purchase in your country. And if not, reach out to me and I will coordinate shipping you a copy. Follow me on social media, subscribe to my YouTube channel and podcast, and sign up for the monthly Literary Aviatrix newsletter to stay up to date on new author interviews, book releases, and author events. I look forward to seeing you in the discussions. And if you plan to attend the Women in Aviation International Conference in Orlando in March, stay tuned for author events and signing schedules, and come say hi at the Authors Connect table. I'm wishing you all blue skies, happy holidays, a happy new year, and happy reading.